You sit at a desk under fluorescent lights. You stare at a monitor. You click between tabs. For 8 hours a day, you are paid a comfortable salary to do absolutely nothing of consequence, as long as you pretend to look busy. In 1930, the economist John Maynard Keynes projected a very different future. He calculated that technological advancements and automation would be so efficient, we would inevitably adopt a 15-hour workweek. We have the automation, but instead of working 15 hours a week, we saw an explosion of administrative bloat. The late anthropologist David Graeber noticed this paradox and gave it a name: bullshit jobs. Graeber approached the workplace as a structural power dynamic. As an activist and one of the original organizers of the Occupy Wall Street movement, he had an eye for how wealth translated into control. His core theory was something he called managerial feudalism. He argued that modern corporations hire entourages of useless administrators, flunkies, duct tapers, and box tickers for the exact same reason feudal lords kept retainers, to boost the prestige and power of the executives at the top. A system built on competitive capitalism had seemingly birthed a vast hierarchical empire of make-work. Millions of people were trapped in jobs that served no real societal purpose. Being paid to do nothing sounds like a sweet deal until you actually have to do it. Graeber described the psychological toll of this existence as spiritual violence. Because we tie so much of our self-worth to our labor, clocking in every day to perform a pointless task is soul-crushing. This pie chart illustrates the initial polling data that backed his thesis. In surveys conducted by YouGov and Dutch researchers, nearly 40% of workers reported feeling that their jobs made no meaningful contribution to the world. The theory struck a chord. It offered a structural explanation for the deep, daily misery of the modern corporate office. But the data Graeber relied on asked people how they felt about their jobs, not what those jobs actually entailed. When researchers analyzed the European Working Conditions Survey, a study of tens of thousands of workers, Graeber's theory failed the test of actual workforce data. The European Working Conditions Survey gathers objective data on the quality of work, the usefulness of tasks, and worker well-being across 28 countries. This line chart plots that empirical data over a decade. When measured objectively, the proportion of workers who rarely or never have the feeling of doing useful work sits steadily below 8%. The vast majority of jobs serve a purpose. The study uncovered a paradox. Essential workers who visibly keep society running, people like garbage collectors and nurses, often reported higher feelings of job uselessness than the corporate administrators Graeber targeted. If the jobs themselves have utility, we are left with a contradiction. Millions of people are still suffering from workplace alienation. We need to know what is actually making them so miserable. The source of this misery is the context of the workplace. Toxic management, bad leadership, and corporate micropolitics create the alienation often blamed on the job itself.
To understand how a useful job becomes a miserable one, we must look to a concept coined in 1955 by naval historian C. Northcote Parkinson. Parkinson developed a mock scientific formula to explain bureaucratic bloat. He observed that officials naturally want to multiply their subordinates, not their rivals. Once hired, those subordinates generate internal memoranda, approvals, and administrative friction, making work for each other regardless of what the organization actually needs to produce. This bloat is compounded by a second rule of organizational behavior, the law of triviality. It's often called bike shedding. If a committee is tasked with building a complex, expensive atomic reactor, they will quickly approve the reactor because few people understand it. Then they spend endless hours debating the materials and color of the employee bike shed outside, because everyone can comprehend a bike shed and wants to demonstrate their personal contribution. Combine Parkinson's bloat with endless trivial debates, and you get a suffocating organizational maze. Perfectly vital tasks are buried under layers of performative administration until the work feels alienating. This administrative suffocation directly attacks the mechanics of human motivation. Empirical research on the economics of labor tells us exactly what makes work feel meaningful. Meaningful work is rarely a state of constant, unalloyed happiness. The workers who report the highest levels of meaning often describe moments that are reflective, highly challenging, and deeply uncomfortable. True meaning requires two things: personal autonomy and a direct, visible connection between your effort and the final outcome of the project. We don't hate our jobs because the tasks are useless. We hate them because managerial oversight robs us of the autonomy and the struggle that makes the work worthwhile in the first place. Which brings us to the present day and the rollout of generative AI. The common expectation is that artificial intelligence is the ultimate administrative fix. We assume we will use it to automate the highly routine, standardized operational tasks, the exact bureaucratic friction we all hate. This radar chart maps those tasks across 7 distinct dimensions of work, from routine and domain knowledge to creativity, complexity, and decision-making. The results upend our assumptions. AI usage is at its lowest when it comes to standardized operational tasks. We aren't automating the routine work. Instead, the data shows a massive concentration of AI engagement in tasks categorized as dynamic problem-solving. Humans are actively choosing to offload the most difficult, intellectually demanding, and divergent phases of their work to a machine. We are handing over the heavy cognitive lifting. Parkinson's law dictates that work will always expand to fill the time available. If we use artificial intelligence to execute the most creative, complex, and deeply cognitive parts of our jobs, we won't free ourselves from the maze of the modern office. We will simply automate the only truly meaningful parts of our work, leaving us with nothing but the bullshit.